The M18 Hellcat moved through the fractured streets with a velocity that seemed entirely at odds with its wartime surroundings. Its radial engine delivered an urgent, high-frequency note that echoed sharply between broken walls, revealing how little mass the chassis carried compared to conventional armour. The open turret exposed the crew to every shockwave, yet granted a field of view vital for rapid engagements. It reacted to battlefield pressure like a spring that refused to stay compressed. The strategist's record begins with the realization that early war American armored doctrine faced a widening gap between expectation and battlefield reality. German armored thrusts in 1940 to 1942 demonstrated a pace and concentration that existing US vehicles could not reliably counter, forcing planners to rethink how hostile spearheads might be intercepted before they unraveled entire defensive sectors. A new principle emerged. Stopping power would depend less on armour thickness and more on manoeuvre freedom. The first technical insight involved the demand for exceptional road mobility. Reports examining European terrain stressed that interception units needed to reposition faster than the enemy could exploit captured junctions, which meant the new machine had to sustain high road speed without overstressing suspension linkages during prolonged movement. The second insight addressed weight limits. Logistics officers insisted that the new platform remain light enough for rapid bridge classification approval, enabling pursuit across infrastructure too fragile for heavier armour. A third requirement arose from crew training schedules. Transition courses for gunners and drivers showed measurable delays when switching between heavy and medium platforms, so the new vehicle needed a simplified internal layout that reduced instruction time while still supporting rapid fire coordination. These combined pressures shaped the specification for a fast, lightly protected interceptor intended to challenge hostile armour, not through endurance, but through speed, reach, and tactical initiative. It chased doctrinal shortcomings with the determination of a mechanic trying to catch a spanner rolling toward a floor drain. The foundations of this requirement set the parameters for a radically different kind of armoured vehicle. The Witness of Progress observes that the concept behind the Hellcat emerged not from a single breakthrough, but from a deliberate departure in American armoured thinking. Instead of imagining a vehicle that could absorb punishment, designers were instructed to pursue one that could outrun it. This shift altered every assumption that normally shaped a tracked fighting machine, turning speed from a desirable trait into the defining strategic requirement. The first new insight centered on turret geometry. The team opted for an open-topped, fully rotating turret to guarantee immediate visual acquisition, accepting the vulnerability this created in exchange for a higher probability of detecting threats before they fired. A second insight came from propulsion strategy. Engineers selected the Wright R975 radial engine not for its lineage, but for its power-to-weight ratio, ensuring rapid acceleration even when the drivetrain was under directional load during abrupt course changes. The third insight emerged from ballistic modelling that evaluated the 76mm gun's performance envelope. Calculations showed that its effectiveness relied heavily on range discipline and angle selection, reinforcing the doctrine that positioning would determine survivability far more than armour thickness. These intertwined ideas produced a design brief that prioritized agility, awareness, and controlled exposure, setting the Hellcat apart from conventional wartime expectations. It treated the usual balance between protection and mobility with all the patience of an engineer trying to reconcile conflicting blueprints at 5 minutes to deadline. The core vision was now set, ready to be transformed from specification into machinery. The mechanical chronicle begins with the transition from blueprint to production floor, where the Hellcat's lightweight structure demanded fabrication methods unusual for an American armoured vehicle of the period. Instead of relying on heavy cast sections, its hull used welded assemblies that reduced mass while allowing tighter control over structural contours. These contours were essential. They governed how the hull managed vibration, torque reactions, and the sharp directional loads produced at high road speeds. The first technical insight appears in the machining tolerances of the suspension arms. To sustain rapid cornering without excessive flex, each arm required consistent hardness across its length, achieved through controlled heat treatment cycles rather than simple batch tempering. A second insight lies in the turret ring interface. The lightweight upper hull made it necessary to reinforce the ring seating with a stiffening collar, preventing distortion during rapid traverses or during prolonged firing sequences of the 76mm gun. A third insight emerges from the drivetrain layout. The compact radial engine transmitted rotational forces through a shortened power path, reducing mechanical losses, but imposing strict alignment requirements during assembly to prevent premature bearing wear. This stage of construction produced a platform that behaved less like a scaled-down tank and more like a precision frame built around acceleration and rapid directional change. It treated careless assembly as though it were an unacceptable disturbance to its finely tuned sense of balance. With its components aligned, welded, and timed, the machine was ready to face the proving grounds that would define its reputation. The present trial records the moment the Hellcat left controlled workshops and entered the unforgiving environment of field evaluation. On open ground, its light chassis surged forward with a responsiveness that immediately distinguished it from heavier tracked vehicles, revealing how thoroughly its power-to-weight ratio altered expected behavior. Test crews noted that directional changes produced distinct lateral reactions, not from instability, but from the agility inherent in its reduced mass. The first technical insight appeared during high-speed braking tests. The hull's low weight caused shorter stopping distances than predicted, yet this advantage came with a requirement for precise brake modulation to prevent track over-rotation on loose surfaces. A second insight formed during turret traverse trials. The open-top design, combined with the lightweight upper structure, allowed the turret to accelerate quickly, but required a finely balanced traverse motor to avoid overshooting targets at full rotational speed. The third insight emerged in gunnery calibration runs. Firing the 76mm gun at speed produced measurable moments of hull yaw, leading evaluators to adjust firing doctrine to favour short positional halts rather than shooting while manoeuvring at full throttle. These tests revealed a machine that excelled when treated as a fast, reactive platform rather than a stationary gun carrier. It handled rapid changes in direction with the abrupt decisiveness of a mechanism that refused to waste momentum on hesitation. The field assessments confirmed its purpose, a vehicle shaped to strike quickly and reposition before danger returned fire. The institutional ledger records the point at which the Hellcat's operational performance clarified the strengths and limitations of the entire concept. When deployed against German armour, its exceptional road speed allowed crews to relocate firing positions faster than enemy gunners could track them, turning mobility into a tactical shield. Yet this same lightweight construction demanded careful judgment. Survival depended on movement discipline rather than passive protection. The first new insight comes from battlefield timing studies. Reports from European engagements showed that the Hellcat could shift from one ambush point to another in a fraction of the time required by heavier vehicles, enabling multi-angle attacks within a single engagement cycle. The second insight lies in the consequence of ammunition selection. The 76mm gun performed reliably with high-velocity armour-piercing rounds, but its effectiveness diminished sharply against late-war heavy armour unless range and angle were carefully controlled, reinforcing the doctrinal emphasis on flanking manoeuvres. A third insight emerged from after-action maintenance records. Travel at sustained high speeds caused elevated stresses on final drives, prompting revisions to unit-level service schedules to prevent cumulative wear from reducing operational readiness. These combined outcomes demonstrated that the Hellcat succeeded when used as a fast, flexible interceptor, rather than as a traditional tank destroyer anchored to a static line. It responded to ambush opportunities with the precision of a mechanism that treated timing itself as a decisive advantage. The pattern of field results solidified its identity as a machine defined by velocity rather than armour. The meta-record turns to the unintended effects created by the Hellcat's combination of speed, light construction, and open-topped architecture. Although designed for rapid interception on the battlefield, its characteristics produced wider logistical, political, and psychological consequences across the units operating it. These consequences were not anticipated during design, yet they shaped how the vehicle influenced the broader war effort. The first insight concerns supply behavior. Its reduced weight allowed transport networks to move more units per convoy, freeing rail capacity for artillery and fuel distribution elsewhere in the theatre, subtly altering priority flows within Allied logistics. The second insight comes from its visibility in public documentation. Training films and photographs showed a vehicle moving at conspicuously high speed, which contributed to morale narratives emphasizing agility and initiative over raw armor mass, influencing how armored doctrine was interpreted by supporting branches. The third insight arises from intelligence analysis. Captured reports and observed movements revealed that Axis observers consistently overestimated the Hellcat's armor thickness, misunderstanding the purpose of its streamlined hull and inadvertently assigning it a threat index disproportionate to its actual protection level, affecting their allocation of anti-tank assets. These downstream effects demonstrate that the Hellcat's contribution extended beyond its tactical employment, influencing perception, resource flow, and interpretation of enemy capability. It shifted expectations with the blunt certainty of a mechanism that made no attempt to disguise the priorities built into its frame. The broader implications of its presence continued to echo long after immediate engagements had passed. The retrospective archive observes the Hellcat's transition from wartime necessity to post-war asset, where its defining traits found new relevance in a dramatically altered military environment. Nations reassessing their armoured forces after 1945 evaluated vehicles not solely for combat capability, but for training utility, mechanical adaptability, and integration into revised organizational structures. The Hellcat's lightweight and responsive handling made it a practical choice for forces seeking mobility-focused doctrine during an era shifting toward mechanized flexibility. The first legacy insight lies in its continued use by several countries into the early Cold War, where its high power-to-weight ratio supported reconnaissance roles that required rapid repositioning rather than prolonged direct combat. A second insight emerges from its influence on later light tank design. The emphasis on weight reduction, efficient chassis geometry, and compact power plants became recurring themes in experiments that led to airborne capable armor concepts and fast reaction vehicles. The third insight appears in preservation and testing records. Its open-top turret and simplified internal layout provided clear mechanical access for instructional programs, making it a practical platform for teaching gunnery fundamentals, recoil behavior, and turret drive mechanics without the complexity of newer sealed systems. Together, these developments positioned the Hellcat not as a relic, but as a formative reference for mobility-centered armored design philosophies that followed. It carried its design priorities forward with the unvarnished directness of a machine that never pretended to be anything other than fast. Its influence persisted in engineering principles and tactical expectations long after production ended. The closing register returns to the qualities first revealed in its earliest wartime appearances, viewing the Hellcat not through sentiment, but through the patterns it imposed on armored thinking. Its defining characteristic, the prioritization of movement over mass, reshaped expectations about how a tracked fighting vehicle could behave when freed from the traditional emphasis on armor thickness. The machine demonstrated that velocity, when combined with disciplined firing geometry, could serve as a functional alternative to brute structural defense. The first final insight concerns survivability analysis. Post-war assessments showed that units employing strict relocation intervals dramatically increased crew endurance rates, proving that mobility-centered doctrine could generate measurable protective effects even when armor remained thin. A second insight comes from data on long-term mechanical behavior. Despite its light framing, the Hellcat's radial engine layout displayed stable operational longevity when maintained within specified load cycles, illustrating the value of mass-efficient structural design executed with consistent tolerances. The third insight involves doctrinal evolution, the concept of striking from transient positions, once a compensation for limited armor, later became a foundational principle in rapid deployment armored tactics, showing how an improvised necessity transformed into a lasting strategic model. The Hellcat story closes not with nostalgia, but with recognition that its architecture, constraints, and advantages formed a coherent demonstration of an alternative approach to armored conflict. It held to its design logic with the unwavering certainty of a mechanism that refused to negotiate its own purpose. The technical lessons it embodied remain clear, precise, and permanently recorded within the lineage of mobility-driven armored development. Thanks for spending your time with this video. If you'd like more documentaries on the machines and moments that shaped history, please consider subscribing. We would love to have you back.